My first encounter took place in November of 1991. It happened in the Wabash River bottoms of southern Illinois. I was 15 and on a hunting trip with my dad. The old man dropped me off that morning. I grabbed my gear and started heading back towards my stand. I used my flashlight to follow the trail of reflector tacks we had left on our last scouting trip. Moving through the forest, I noticed it was eerily quiet. I made it to my blind, climbed up in the tree, and settled in for a cold morning of waiting and watching. As I sat there in the wee hours of the morning, the sky went from black to dark blue to a deep purple of dawn. I had begun to doze off when I heard a loud racket coming from my left. Whatever it was getting closer. At least 10 deer ran beneath where I sat. And when I say run, they were almost stampeding. I looked and I listened as they went through, waiting for the big buck that must have been chasing them. It was, after all, the rut. Well, something was following them, but it wasn't a deer. It came right beneath me as well, walking on two legs and barely making a sound. It was staring up at me as it passed, and the creature stopped directly under me. Our eyes met for a brief second, and then it moved on, continuing the pursuit of the frightened deer. Once it was past and out of sight, I continued to sit perplexed and a bit in shock at what I had just witnessed. Whatever it was had been very large and covered with long matted hair. I instantly thought of an old movie I'd watched as a kid, The Legend of Boggy Creek, and wondered if this is what I had just seen. Regardless to say, that was the last time I ever went hunting. Fast forward 19 years later. My second encounter took place in Spencer County, Indiana, July of 2010. I was working as a city police officer at the time and had recently moved in with a friend of mine in the area. I had been living in my new place for about 3 weeks. The house sits on several hundred acres of mostly forested land. My friend and roommate had been called away on business. He would be out of town for a few days, so I was on my own. No big deal. It was my day off. I'd been working third shift, so I was up late trying to unpack the rest of everything and settle in, when I started getting the uneasy feeling of being watched. I just shrugged it off and continued cleaning, but the feeling never really left me. Hours went by and it only got worse. I just sat down and put in a movie and was beginning to relax. Something bounced off my front window. I about jumped out of my skin. I retrieved my shotgun and stepped out on the front porch, now more mad than scared. I racked around, figuring I was dealing with trespassers or meth cooks, when I saw him just inside the tree line, maybe 40 yards away across the yard. It was very dark out, but the porch light was bright enough to see a large silhouette crouching down. Then he stood up. Now I stand about 5'8", and the porch is about 3 feet off the ground, and from what I could see, we were eye to eye. My first thought was, what is this big dude doing way out here in the middle of nowhere, in the wee hours of the night, in a ghillie suit? And then it dawned on me. I knew exactly what I was looking at. I had seen one 19 years earlier. I stood there frozen, eyes wide, mouth agape, the shotgun still cradled in my arms, all but forgotten. He and I just stared at each other. What seemed like hours was probably only a span of seconds. He gave me a loud snort and then retreated back into the woods. I could hear his departure as he crashed back through the forest. He was clearly letting me know that he was leaving. Regardless to say, I didn't get any sleep that night. At first light, I found my courage and decided to go out for breakfast. On my way, I saw a friend of mine with the sheriff's department, so I stopped in to say hi. We got to talking, and he started telling me about his night, how he'd been in my neck of the woods for most of the evening, and asked if I had seen anything. Well, and I told him the exact same story that I just got done telling you all. I waited for the laughter and the ribbing that I was sure to come, but it never did. He just replied, "Oh, it's him again." Him, I asked. Yeah, he comes out every now and again to get in some mischief. He doesn't really mean any harm. He was probably just curious. You didn't take a shot at him, he asked. No, I didn't. I didn't really feel threatened by him at all. Good, because he hates that. So we finished our conversation and we never spoke of it again.